All right, well, our main speaker today is, I can't tell you how thrilled I am that he's a part of what we're doing and means a lot to this community. He is really kind of, I feel inadequate to introduce him because he's done so many incredible things in his life. He's Houston's resident citizen provocateur. He's founded the Texas Prison Show on KPFT, which has been, gosh, how many years now has that been going?
37 years now.
37 years every Friday night. It's amazing, and it's still going strong. He has been behind so many efforts to improve life for humans across the board. You know, it's not adequate to call him a prison rights activist or an LGBT activist. He's Ray Hill, I think, stands for all people. So let's welcome to the podium my friend Ray.
Thank you, Mike. I want you to know that, am I the only person in the room who remembers when we used to dress up to fly coach? You are the neatest crowd in the world, and you didn't dress up to be neat, and I want to congratulate you all on that. I'm wearing the name tag of Mom today because this is one of those gay community stories, and over there I am known as Mom. I'm the guy you call when you're about to go to jail. You always call your mother, remember? I'm the guy you call when your sorry husband gets arrested and he's on his way to jail. I'm the guy that visits you when you were in jail in prison. Nobody does that but your mother. So over there I'm known as Mom, and the story I have to tell today is one of those mom stories. Now the way my life actually works is the telephone rings. Could be any time, night or day. My definition of an activist is someone who answers the telephone, listens very carefully to what is being said on the other end of the line, and then help all of those you can and comfort those you can't. But remember, you've only got somebody on the other line who may not be the person in trouble or may not be the person, but that's who you've got. So you talk to that person for the needs of the person on the telephone. Telephone rang. It was Robert Bridges. I know Robert Bridges. He is the flautist for the Houston Symphony Orchestra. He also plays piccolo a lot. And during Christmas season, he plays all those solos in the Nutcracker Ballet. So he gets a calloused upper lip, which turns out to be kind of a beak, until almost June. And then it softens up. Robert's a friend of mine. He's small, good-looking, kind of cute, actually, and very, very talented. And I said, what's the problem? He said, well, I was contracted again this year to go to Second Baptist Church to play in their Easter cantata. That's kind of like Oasis had their seasonal cantata, made up of their own members. Now they had to go find some other musicians to flush it out. And the same thing happens at Second Baptist Church. And they get their musicians from Houston Symphony. And I said, okay, it's a paying gig. It's not. He said, no, it's not okay. He said, a French horn player. They got me and some strings, and a French horn player and another brass player. And we're not there. And the French horn player is a person with AIDS, and in 1988, a person with AIDS was usually very emaciated and looked scary and bad. Doesn't mean that his health is in immediate jeopardy, it's just the way people look then. And when he got there for rehearsal, music pastor Moore called the police and had him escorted off the property. And he said, I can't do this gig. And my fellow musicians are wondering whether they can do this gig. Can you help? Well, sure. Sure, I can help. And in my way of thinking, helping means I get up the next morning, call a news conference, and if it's a Ray Hill news conference, all of the media comes. It may not be news, but they'll get a one-liner or two that their editor will be impressed with. And And so they come, and I called them to conversation, and I said, you know, I don't go to church much anymore, but I was raised in church, and my mama, Frankie, told me that if you only go to church one day a year, it should be on Easter, because that is the day they celebrate a risen Savior. So I want all of you backslidden gay people, gay men, lesbians, transgendered people, and all of my friends with AIDS, backslidden as you may be, and your support team, I want us to join at Second Baptist Church, second service, this Easter Sunday. Well, everybody carried that story. It made the second page, front section in the Houston Post and the Chronicle. It made all the television stations, and KIKK Pasadena ran it every 30 minutes for 3 days. Queers are going to Second Baptist Church. So then my phone rings again. It's Second Baptist Church. Mr. Hill, we would like to parley. Well, it is well known that I am a parley kind of guy. And so I get in my car and I drive out to Second Baptist Church, and they tell me what lot to park in, and there are 4 police officers awaiting me. I said, this could even turn out to be more fun than I expected. And they escort me first through the school, where I see all the little high school boys in their Speedos and pretty little churches. I think they're going to be great athletes. And since I didn't dive into them like an alligator, I survived that first test. And then we went through the rest of there. We went through the school. They hadn't built a shopping center there. You know, the shopping center gives great opportunity to those who want to run money changers out of the temple, but that wasn't there yet. But we went through the gardens, and we went up to the main sanctuary, the old sanctuary, second floor, and they hired me down the hall, and there was the managing pastor's office. Well, opened the door and walked in, and there was John Barksdale. I knew John Barksdale. He had been the Coors distributor when Coors came into the Texas market, and I had boycotted his ass and run him completely out of business because of Coors hiring discrimination against gay people. I said, John, what are you doing here? He said, oh, I'm the managing pastor here. I said, I just love dealing with somebody who has surrendered to me before. And so John began, well, we want you to bring your people, and we'll have a special parking lot for you, and you can park. If you're bringing buses, we'll have buses. And I said, no, John, you don't understand. I just went on the news and I invited people to church. I'm not bringing anybody. They're coming on their own. They will park where your people park. And we don't want special pews. We will sit where your people sit. Oh. Well, that kind of changes the paradigm. So, Easter Sunday morning comes. Second service. Frankie, my mother, was alive. She went with me. Kathy, my sister, was alive. She went with me. So did Don Sanders, the chair of the American Gay Atheist Association. Hadn't been in a church in God only knows how long. And it was just time in our movement for the transgendered ladies to have a dress-up occasion. I had not planned on that, but it worked out beautifully. There were 40 very well-dressed transgendered ladies. Not all of them could pass for women, you understand. But boy, were they dressed. Pillbox hats, some with veils. I mean, they dressed. Remember when we dressed up to fly coat? They dressed up to go to church like people at Second Baptist Church, and nobody got stopped, because they were dressed for church. All you got to do is be dressed. I don't care if you're a gorilla. If you show up dressed for church, you get in, get a good pew. All right? They did, however, turn one woman away. She showed up in a flannel shirt and jeans. and she had to go to the third door before she got in. Unfortunately, she was the reporter for the Houston Chronicle, which did not materially help their story the next morning. Ed Young came swinging out on me. He does this kind of like Loretta Young. Anybody remember Loretta Young, who came on the scene with her skirt afly? He does that with his coattails. He comes swinging up and grabbed the microphone. In the 13th century, he got that almost right, but not quite. 1/3 of Europe died of the plague. Now, Frankie, my mother, being observant, had said, "Do you notice how many police officers are in the back of this church?" And I turned around and there was 40 police officers back there. Ed Young had anticipated with that opening of his Easter Sunday service, we would react to that. So I quietly put my hand over my shoulder and held Don Sanders' ass in that pew. Because if I didn't get up and Don Sanders didn't get up, there would be no reaction. And then Ed Young had the awkward occasion to go from the Black Plague to the glorious news of a risen Christ. That's some distance. And he stumbled. He's usually a great orator, but what he had expected to happen did not happen. And so he did not have a plan B in mind. And so he awkwardly explained all of that. And he finally got back to it. So as soon as over, I went out in the garden, which is where the shopping center is now, and I held a news conference and I explained the awkwardness of the duty of going from the Black Plague to a risen Christ. And that all showed up in the newspapers. And let me tell you something, you can get great lines in the newspapers, you can get headlines, you can get great coverage, but if you get the political cartoon, that is like a swift kick in the groin of your opponent. And Anderson wrote that political cartoon. It was one of his first cartoons for the Chronicle. It had a picture of Second Baptist Church in the background, a little word bubble coming up saying, "So some people are upset about the AIDS thing, no big loss." And walking away from the church is a man who looks bewildered, big eyes, bewildered, a woman with smoke over her head, angry, and Jesus Christ walking out of that church. Miss Eleanor Tinsley moved her letter from the Second Baptist Church to South Main Baptist Church. And with her, dozens of, I cost Ed Young money that day. And they had all kinds of explanations. Oh, it wasn't the AIDS, it was that he had pneumonia. Well, I had a doctor step forward and said that pneumonia virus is around us all the time. Most of us have an immune system that is not a danger to anybody. Everything they came up with, I had an answer. That's a great story. But it didn't end there. About a month later, I got another call from a bookstore clerk in a bookstore out on Interstate 10. "Ray, you don't know me, but I was cleaning up in the arcade last night and I found a wallet. And it had some business cards in it, and the business cards read, Music Minister, Second Baptist Church." That's something I can work with. I said, "Is there any money in the wallet?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Don't take any of the money, just put it in a plastic Ziploc bag with the money and the credit cards, and I'll be able to pick it up." And I picked it up. And I called the number on the business card. And Pastor Moore answered the phone. I said, "Pastor Moore, I have your wallet." "Somebody stole it." I said, "Really? What is the likelihood of somebody stealing your wallet and going to an adult arcade on I-10 and leaving it on the floor containing the money and the credit cards? What is the chances of that explanation being accurate?" Click. Well, I have to reach way back in my youth, and I found out Paul had some instructions about this. And in spite of the last song, Paul said, if you find your brother in sin, you confront your brother. Well, I tried that didn't work. Well, the next step is you go to the elders of the church. I get to talk to John Barksdale again. So I go out and explain this whole thing to John Barksdale, and I give him the wallet. And he said, well, music minister Moore is on leave of absence, and we don't know when he'll be back. He never returned. Because they are not shy about judging at Second Baptist Church. And the obvious lie or excuse he had was as obvious to them as it was to me. But I was worried about Pastor Moore's soul. And Paul has one more step in that. You pray about it. Well, since I don't pray, I thought, tell a reporter. That was in 1988. The French horn player died of AIDS. My friend Robert died of AIDS. Hundreds of my friends died of AIDS. Let me tell you something. There is not a group of people in all of history that were faced with a continuing crisis like my community was faced with AIDS that did not run away from it. We ran toward it. We confronted the government about the treatment of AIDS and their restrictions on trial medicines because people were dying anyway. Give them some hope if you can't give them anything else. We confronted everybody. The only ally we had was the medical profession, and most of them said, we're with these queers over here, they know what they're doing. And we built institutions to teach people how to avoid getting infection. I wrote the first safe sex pamphlet ever written. And you wouldn't call it safe, you just call it reduced or risk pamphlet now. But it's still in print. My people are fine people. My people are good people. My people are the nurses and the caregivers in senior citizens' homes and hospices. Every day they get up. My people take care of their parents because their siblings have got kids to worry about. My people are the caregivers, the nurturers, the helpers of the world. And so, in a few weeks, we're going to be celebrating Gay Pride. Well, what have we got to be proud of? Figure that out for yourself.
Anyone? I mean, thank you so much, as always, Ray. Any questions, comments?
Good morning, how you doing?
I am very well, thank you.
I hear that. Touching upon, the issues of medication and treatment for AIDS and how it's affect, obviously not only the homosexual community, but also there's a lot of heterosexual people.
Typically, a newly infected person is a woman of color of childbearing age, her sex partners, and unfortunately her children, and all that could be prevented.
I know that we're a long way off politically from achieving that. I get that. However, if somehow the United States could find a way to get a single-payer Medicare for all comprehensive plan from birth to death, for everybody, how do you think that would help the community and the homosexual and those that are affected by HIV if we were to achieve that? In
lieu of that, because that's a policy issue that we have very strong feelings about in our community, and we're all in favor of a single payer, single source, adequate health care as a human right from birth until death. But in lieu of that, what we do is work the bureaucracies, including the Texas legislature, to try to make sure that there is funding for the necessary medication to people, and that's not limited to gay people. I mean, our agenda deals with dealing with, and it's amazing. Our opponents in the hero referendums of the black churches are now our allies at protecting their members from HIV infections, and old hatches are being buried. So it's not only an opportunity for us to be who we are and serve as best we can, but it's also an opportunity for us to make peace with people who are temporarily our adversaries. Thank you for the question. Excellent question.
Good. Any other comments, questions for Ryan? Great. Okay, well, let's give it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.